Questions on that? So the selection sort, understand how it works. The binary search, understand how it works. Right? Does that make sense? Yes?
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Questions on those two items? What's next? Two-dimensional array? Right? 2D array. What are the minimum requirements for a 2D array to be able to examine the entire structure?
It needs two size declarators.
It needs two, that's right, two indices, right?
Yep.
So, it's sort of the general rule of thumb is every dimension you add, you have to add an additional indice, right? So a 3D, you have to have sort of like X, Y, and a Z dimension so that you can get the depth, right? Anytime after 3 dimensions, it starts to hurt my head because you have to determine whether it's in the plane or out of the plane, right, on that 4th dimension. So, does that make sense? So, you can sum, for example, the entire structure, right? Going row and then column. Or like I said, if you want to do the summing of, for example, a specific row, you hold the row constant and move the column. Right? Does that make sense?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I missed the last part. You said you hold the row and move the column.
Yeah, if you, for example, if you want to sum by row or sum by column, do you get that?
Got that.
So if you want to add up all the values, for example, in row 1 of your quote-unquote matrix or table, whatever you'd like to call it, right? You hold the row constant, say like row 1, and then you just simply increment the columns. And similarly, if you want to sum by column, you hold the column steady and increment by row. Like you're walking down the column.
So basically, the row loop, the for loop for the row would be the outer loop, and then the for loop for the column would be the inner loop.
Yes.
Okay. And then it'd be the other way around to sum up.
Well, yeah, if you want to sum by row, you don't even have a row value. You don't have a row loop, for example, right? You hold the row steady, and then, like, if you want to sum the values in row 4, right, you set the value to 4, and you simply execute or increment across on the columns.
Oh, okay.
Only if you want to sum the entire matrix or entire table, if you will, right?
Yeah, all the rows.
That you do the inner and outer deal, like you were just talking about.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. More good news. What else is on your mind? Oh yeah, and it actually shows that. I didn't even see this in the text. Summing by row and summing by column. One of the things that's kind of interesting in C#, right, is this idea of a jagged array. What does that mean?
It's a one-dimension array with elements that are one-dimension arrays.
Okay. So that picture on 445 of a jagged array, right? Row 0, row 1, and row 2. Like you said, they're sort of one-dimensional arrays that are stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
Right? And if you look at the information there, in terms of initializing that, right? Something that's very interesting to me is the fact that a jagged array in C# is literally a dynamic structure made out of pointers. The word new indicates a dynamic data type that actually only happens during on execution. So just kind of stepping through the rest of 7 here while I'm at it. A list, right? Many of you should remember a list of you Python fans out there. The behavior of a list. So, count property. We end with a list in chapter 7. Thoughts, questions? Chapter 7. Oh. Check your chat. Okay. Well, yes, could you make the first line of binary search to sort the array and increase? Yes, you can. Somebody asked in the chat here, could you make the first line in binary search to sort the array in case it wasn't sorted before being passed in? That would be sort of a prerequisite, right? That in order to execute that binary search, that array would have to be sorted. Does that make sense? I think it's Nathan, right? Are you okay? Yes. So you have to make sure that the list itself, the array, is sorted. Okay. Next, what else is on your mind? So we just kind of go backward in the chapters. We just about talked through chapter 7. Yes. Back to you, folks.
I don't know if
this is your hour, as they say. What's that?
I don't know if I missed it, but is chapter 8 covered in the midterm?
No.
Okay.
1 through 7. 1 through 7.
So yeah, maybe
we should only have, I believe, 11 chapters. Right? I have to look again, but I think the text only holds 11 chapters. And really, the second to last of the last chapter is more application stuff, like applying C# form to a database. Actually, you can use an Excel spreadsheet and use that as a database to feed that front end.
Can you do it with SQL?
Oh yeah. You're going to be using SQL in that. In that last section.
Microsoft SQL Server.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. And most of you, I don't know if you installed it yet or not, but if you haven't, you'll be. Visual Studio comes with sort of, I would call it a cheap version of SQL Server built in.
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah. All right, so somebody's taking a SQL class. Good. That'll be good.
Will we be covering any links?
No. Not this course. But if we have some time, I will talk about it. Right? Just because of the fact it's a very unique set of opportunities there, right? through C# that you really wouldn't get through anything else either, right? For those of you that don't know, so there's a section in C# called link, and link allows you to literally write PLC code in your C# code and run it against tables, for example, against the database. It's a little different than the way we're going to be doing it, right? Because we're going to build a form and drag the controls right onto the form for the data elements, which in turn will then populate the form. And then you'll have to write code against or with the form to communicate with that table, with that database. Whereas link literally goes out and executes against the table directly.
Wow, it's pretty cool.
I used to teach the link stuff in the 2250 course, which got discontinued by the school because of I hadn't been able to run it for I think 3 years consecutively, and they said, "Look, we can't run this class or offer this class anymore because it turns people get." We don't get enough students, and then people put that in on their, courses for that semester, and we have to drop the class, and it gets ugly. So, anyway, but I will. Somebody remind me as we get close to the end to, like week, 11, something like that, and we can do a little bit of work with Link because it is very cool.
Is that in the book?
Link, not in this book. But I will get some information out. It's LINQ.
LINQ. Okay.
Right. Look it up.
I will.
There's a lot of stuff in that regard that you can take a look at. Yeah, I mean, C# itself is really designed for doing that kind of work. I mean, in the corporate world, a lot of people build some, I would call them, not necessarily simple, but nicer front ends to for multi-user, even Excel sheets, right? There's a lot of companies use Excel just to keep track of things, right? And then all of a sudden, there's so much in those spreadsheets that multiple people want to be able to get access to it as opposed to a single user. And the way that typically gets done is by putting on some sort of front end, like a forms front end, like we're doing, like we're going to be doing, right? Which, like I said, works nicely so multiple people can get to the data itself. Right? So, what else is on your mind? Anything else? Chapter 7. Let's do it that way. As I said, I'm not going to ask you to write some selection sorts code, but I probably will ask you on that exam, how does it work? Right? Or does this sound like the selection sort? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at Chapter 6. Like I said, we'll work our way back. Chapter 6.